Okay guys, we are gonna dive into some things that we'll frequently see in the front rack of the front squat specifically. So again, we will deal with many athletes in the gym that will have some sort of restriction at the shoulder in the front rack position. Pat is jacked. He may not look like it now, but he's jacked, right? And what we'll find is that, let's say you have athletes that have this kind of really, really tight upper body, and what we'll find is that they will have a narrow grip in that front rack position. And what we'll find is that, like, while this might be the limitation of their front rack position, what will happen is, if I have him turn 90 towards you guys, as I bring the hands in, what will happen is at the thoracic spine, this will become a much more concaved position, right? So he goes from a flat, can you go to a flat back for me? Yeah, so he has this wide shoulder shelf here in a good position. And then as he brings his elbows and shoulders in, this will start to round out. And then if we think about this, past just working with a PVC pipe, if he's already starting in this position here and then we load him with either a lot of weight or it just happens to feel a lot heavier under fatigue at high volume, this position is actually gonna get worse and worse and worse. So if I have you turn back again forward for me, Pat. What we want to try to get our athletes to do is think about having a really wide shelf at the shoulders so we can create as wide to left to right as possible so that we can create a really flat shelf with the upper thoracic spine being as flat as possible in that position. So while you might have athletes that are restricted and they have to have their hands in close, we do need to take into account what that's gonna do to their upper back in that position, because then what we need to think about as a coach is, like, I'm gonna need to think about loading for this particular workout. And while they might be big and strong, I still don't want them front squatting in this already rounded position. We know what heavier load is gonna do to it, and we know what higher volume is gonna do to it. It's only going to exacerbate the problem. So take a look at that position. I know what happens when the hands come in. It's going to affect my thoracic spine, at which point I, as a coach, need to think about, okay, what's the volume in this workout? What's the load in this workout? Because if they are gonna start in a less than optimal position, my job as a coach now is to make sure that they stay in that position and then it doesn't regress into a worse position over time. So take a look at the hands, know what that does to the back, make those adjustments, be ready to scale appropriately.
There's a compromise to be made for every athlete, and depending on the athlete's shoulder mobility, they might have to be, just like you said, in that rounded position. So it's acceptable but not ideal. And you're always working towards a better position, and the only time we fail is if we don't try to cue them to a better one, or if we let them continue to get worse and worse.
Thank you for watching that. Just so you know though, that is just the tip of the iceberg. If you found that helpful and you want more content just like that, we have hundreds of these videos in the knowledge. Everything from cues and tips and tricks to theory content that will flush out your understanding of everything we do in CrossFit. If you want to learn directly from me and do weekly calls where we do homework and everything in between, we also have the Knowledge Pro. If any of this sounds like your cup of tea, just click the link in the description for a free 7-day trial.